Fishing is complicated. You feel like it shouldn't be, but with thousands of rods and reels and a million different lures to choose from, we've come a far way from a stick, a line, a cork, and a worm sitting on the end of it. If you don't have someone to teach you the basics, it can be an intimidating sport to even tackle. So here it is, everything you need to know about saltwater fishing. Kinda. I grew up fishing casually with my father and started really taking it seriously in high school. Now, filming videos over the past 4 years, I've learned a ton. Through many mistakes, many successes, hopefully I can help you out. We're going to hit as fast as possible rod and reel setup, lines, the best time to fish, and lures. Speaking of lures, this video is sponsored by Carl's Bait and Tackle. Carl's is an online retailer where you can get any of the fishing tackle you need. Seriously, it's where I get the majority of my tackle now. A ton of the lures I'm going to show in this video I ordered off Shop Carl's, so go down, hit the link below, and check it out. You can join Carl's Club and save a ton of money on your gear. Couldn't recommend it more. The most expensive, complicated, and important part of your arsenal is your rod and reel. If you don't know how to properly set up a rod and reel, it can hurt your fishing success. Rod and reels are expensive, man. Start cheap, and if you need to, save up some money and buy yourself a nice setup eventually. Seriously, buying a nice setup will change your life, and you'll have a hard time ever going back to cheaper gear once you do, though, so be warned. When picking a reel, you should decide what fish you're trying to target. A 2500 reel to a 3000 is great for trout, sheep's head, smaller red, snook, and tarpon. The 4000 size reel, that's your workhorse. If you could only buy one nice reel, that should be it. It can catch just about everything. And a 5K to a 6K, those are your big fish reels.
Here he comes. Oh!
Throwing your swim baits, big top waters, poppers, big flare hogs. That's stuff for your bigger snook, your tarpon, and your big giant Jack Crevalle and reds. Look, rods can be complicated. There's a lot of information placed on this tiny little section of rod. You have your rod length, you have your recommended line size, what weight lures it'll be best suited to throw, and your power and action, all right there. Alright, here it is. Breakdown on rod length. A shorter rod is meant for light precision, and a long rod is meant for distant casting. A short rod like a 6'6" is amazing for tight pitching docks and mangroves or any type of structure with light lures. Anything between a 7'2" to a 7'6" is a great all-around rod size, and a 7'11" is lit for top waters and large baits. Then your 8-foot pluses, those are like your big swim bait rods or like a beach rod for surf casting. Use so many options with the line. I'll break down how I feel a spinning reel line should be set up. A 2500, 10-pound test. A 3000, 15-pound test. 4000, 20-pound test. A 5,000, 20 to 25-pound test. And a 6,000, 30-pound test. Now, bait casters are a bit different. A 200, I'll put 20 to 30. A 300, I'll put 30 to 40. And a 400, I'll put 40 to 50 when you're fishing heavier structure. You have your line set up on your reel, but you need to put leader on it. Now, leader comes in basically two varieties, mono and fluoro. Fluoro is more expensive, but thinner in diameter, and it sinks. It's a little more finesse. Mono's cheaper, but thicker in diameter, but it has more abrasion resistance, and it also floats. So here it is. Mono, great for top waters, bridge fishing, and live bait. Fluoro, basically any artificials that are sinking, and especially really great for hyper clear water. But honestly, use whatever the hell you want. One of the most confusing things you'll probably see on the rod is the power and the action. If you know what that means, it just seems like gibberish. The power is the bend of the rod, and the action is the sensitivity of the rod tip. Slow equals more bend, fast equals less bend. Here's a really cool chart that I found that actually breaks it down pretty easy. Once you understand this, it's actually pretty straightforward. Heavier rods throw heavier baits, but have less sensitivity. Lighter rods throw smaller baits, but have extreme sensitivity. In my opinion, your budget should be around 60% on the reel and 40% on the rod. My advice to you is think about that information about all the reel and rods and build the ultimate setup for you. Phew. Alright, now to the fun stuff, lures. Let's just break this down from the easiest lure to the hardest. Easiest place to start is swim baits and diving plugs. You just kind of throw them out and you reel them straight back in, and basically any fish will hit them. Super straightforward, an easy thing to throw when you're just learning how to fish, but they even have an amazing place for the most experienced angler. Like, they just work forever. Spoons will probably also go in that category, and they're probably the simplest and easiest lure ever made in the world to throw, and they crush fish off the beach and in the boat and in the inlet. It doesn't really matter. Anything will basically smack a spoon. Your medium difficulty lures to throw would be your shrimp, fluke, and twitch baits. They require a bit more action, and they work on fish, and they slay. Shrimp, you fish slow and you twitch along the bottom. Flukes and twitch baits, you work pretty erratically right beneath the surface. Your harder lures are going to be your top waters, your big swim baits, and your feather jigs. Now, these lures aren't necessarily harder to work, but they result in fewer bites typically, but the bites are the big ones. These baits require a bit more technique and knowing when to throw them and what conditions to call for, and you just learn that over time. Lures are the most fun part of fishing, so seriously, just have fun with them and experiment. Go buy some, try different things, see what looks cool. Just throw wacky stuff and maybe it'll work, maybe it doesn't, but the only way to find out is experiment. Something real quick to touch on. Get it real quick. Anyways, the tide is so important in saltwater. And the tide is something that bass fishermen don't really have to deal with, but with saltwater, it rules the world. Moving water is best. Just keep that in mind. You want to fish water that's moving. So, in your area that you fish, find moving water, and find what the fish do on low tides and what they do in high tides, and write it down or just remember it and think about it. So you'll learn what they do. Typically on a high tide, the fish move up to structure. Maybe that's a flat, maybe it's a mangrove line, maybe it's a dock or a seawall. Low tide, they'll typically drop back on the edges of the structure or drop into channels or get into bridges and just find deeper water. You need to go out in your body of water, fish, and see what they're doing on those tide cycles, and every time you go out, build upon that knowledge, and that's how you're going to catch more fish. And finally, time and experience. Just freaking go out there and fish. That is literally the only way you'll get better. And by watching my videos. Get out there, experiment, and learn. You need to figure out what works, and more importantly, what doesn't work, and stop doing it. You will become a better fisherman by getting out there and fishing. Oh yeah, by the way, fishing is supposed to be fun. Just have fun. Go with your friends, your dad, your mom, whoever, and just enjoy yourself. And if you really want to catch some fish, just throw live bait.